right, here we go. A new episode. I know I've been on a hiatus. I apologize deeply, but the Pokemon and trading card channel has really taken off, and that has really taken up a ton of my time. So I'm going to try my best to continue posting as much as I can, but I can't guarantee a weekly thing, hopefully every other week. But as much as I can, I will get it in. First off, I want to thank all my YouTube members and everybody who supports the channel. I know I've been on a hiatus, but I will be here as much as I possibly can. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Squig Herder Part 2. Let's get after it. Let's go. Alright, the first thing we're going to do after we assemble our miniature and spray paint it with black, you can use spray paint or you can use airbrush, is we're going to dry brush some Mechanicus standard gray all over the miniature, start building up our highlights, our pre-highlights before we start doing our main colors, our base colors I should say. After that we're going to use some Praxeti White or whatever kind of flat white you do have, again on a dry brush standard to make it look a little bit more bright and vibrant. Finally, we're going to use some Stirland Mud on the base just to get that preset down, because that does take a minute to dry. And this isn't a huge model, so it doesn't take that long to paint. All right, the first base color we are going to use is some Oruk Flesh, obviously on our Orc, or this is a Goblin, all of our Goblin areas. Next, we're going to take some of that Leadbelcher and we're going to use that on our face mask and on the end of the Squig Herder poker stick or whatever that is. I don't know what it is exactly. For our staff of our poker stick thingamajigger, we're going to use some Gorthor Brown. For the top of our little mushrooms that are growing on the back of our Squig Herder, we're going to use some Wraith Bone on there. Use a bigger size brush to make that go a little bit quicker. For the inside of our eyes, we're going to use some Wild Rider Red. And the mouthpiece of our face mask, we're going to use some Bathasar Gold. Now, since we have already created our gradient of our highlights, this is a very easy way to do cloaks, in my opinion, especially black cloaks, because you've already got the highlights in there. We're just going to put a thin coat over. You're going to do a 50-50 mix of these two colors, contrast medium and Basilicanum gray. And as you notice, as you slap this all over the thing, you're going to notice that those highlights stick out perfectly through there. It's perfect. All it does is basically blend the colors in there and dulls it down just a little bit, and that's exactly what you want. Super easy way to do cloaks. Save that one in the bank. For the couple pouches on our Goblin, we're going to use some Mournfang Brown. And for our belt, or the rope around our miniature, we're going to use some Rhinox Hyde. With all the base colors done, we're going to move on to our washes, and the first one we're going to use is obviously some Nuln Oil on the face mask and all of our metal or metallic areas. For the mushroom areas and the brown areas on our miniature, we're going to use some Agrax Earthshade. For the goblin's skin, we're going to use some Athnian Camoshade. You can use a different color of green if you want to do a different type of contrast or shade color, but I like using Athnian Camoshade. It looks more goblin realistic to me, if that makes any sense. Now we're going to start on the mushrooms. Now there is no right or wrong way to do this. You can use any colors you want. These are the colors I picked because I like them and it kind of matched the box art. Obviously we're going to use a Doomfire Magenta on a couple of the mushrooms going down the line. Next, we're going to use some Leviathan Purple. So, yeah, but you don't need to use that. You can use whatever you want. For the next mushroom, we're going to use some Baal Red. Followed by some of that Storm Fiend. And finally, some of that Striking Scorpion Green. Again, you don't need to use these colors. This is just what I used. I liked using these colors. If you don't have these, use something else. You don't even need to use contrast, but again, contrast paints really speed up the process, so if you're trying to get a bunch of stuff done, this helps out tremendously. It's worth the investment. This is not a cheap hobby, but this does help out a tremendous amount of time. Moving into our highlight phase, we're going to use some of that Wraith Bone and put some of those nice little circles in all of our mushrooms to make them look, well, obviously mushroomy. We're going to take some of pure white and use this on our eyeballs to make our goblin have some red eyes with some white pupils, I guess you could say. We are going to use some Necron Compund on our metal areas. Be very careful with this. Don't overdo it. You don't want to try and get it on the areas we've already painted. So use a small brush and be very sparing. To brighten up our mouth grate, use some Runelord Brass just on that specific area, nowhere else. Another layer of Gorthor Brown onto our staff. And for our toesies or our nails, we're going to use some Abaddon Black because this is a spawn of Satan. I don't know who it's spawn of, probably not. I don't know, just saying that just to say it. And to highlight up our skin, we're going to use some Oruk Flesh on the beginning parts. We're going to use this on the raised areas. You don't need to go over the whole thing all over again. It's merely just to go on the raised areas and start building up our highlights on our skin. Next, we're going to use a 50-50 mix of Oruk Flesh and Nurgling Green, and we're going over basically the same areas. Raised areas leave the depths of our skin that original Oruk Flesh, and as we build up the colors, you'll notice the difference and how cool it does look. And finally, we're going to use some of that Nurgling Green, pure Nurgling Green. And we're putting this on the back of the heels, somewhere where the light would hit down, and that will create that contrast look for the skin. Finally, we're going to use some Scrag Brown on our miniature pouches that we have. Followed by some Baneblade Brown onto the belt area. And as we're coming to a close on this miniature, we're going to take some more of that Baal Red and put it onto the eye. Don't go overboard with it. It will, when it dry, it will make it that white stand out, and it looks good. I'm going to put a tuft down, a green tuft, but you can do whatever you want. This is obviously just what I'm doing. Followed by your favorite part of painting this miniature, because it means we're done, is painting the rim of the base with Abaddon black. And that's it. That's an easy way to paint the second portion of the Squig Herder. It's the part 2 version. We're going to have a whole bunch more coming out. I promise, again, I'm going to be trying to pump them out as many videos as I can. This does take a ton of time. I mean, a ton. So I'm going to try and get them out as quickly as possible, because, you know, this is a good hobby for me, and I love doing it, and I do it for everybody who supports the channel. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And until next time, paint on.